And first of all, thank you for stopping by and thank you for spending time with us. So my name is Anupam Girdhar and I'm the CEO of Ascential Medical and Life Sciences. What we do is we focus on bringing science for the benefit of mankind, and that's our focus. Personally for me, I joined this company as the CEO around a year back. Previously I used to work for Thermo Fisher Scientific for almost seven years, and prior to that I was working with Baxter Healthcare. And what brought me here, and we'll talk more about, is a lot of toys that I can play with and bring the right solution to our customers. So in our booth this time we are focused on a couple things. One is bringing some of the innovative, showcasing some of the innovative stuff that we have been developing to specifically help the customers expedite time to market. So as you know, cost and time to market are very high priority with the customers. So what we have done is we have developed certain modules, like in our Launchpad series, that as customers come to us, we already have a good head start for them, whether it's a modular control or whether it is some fluid handling system and so on. So you'll see some of it outside. So that's one focus that we have. The other is we are showcasing our capabilities around the implantables and consumables manufacturing. So we have invested quite a bit on that, and we can discuss a little bit more later on in terms of the trends in the industry. But in general, for us, that is one of the fastest growing business for us, and we have lots more clean rooms and capabilities that we are looking forward to striking more collaborations in the industry. And then also, I think the one part that I felt sometimes get missed is that while a lot of companies focus on devices, on instruments, on consumables, there's an underlying platform that's needed to automate things. And that's something that we bring to the table, because it's one thing to develop a device, it's another thing to develop it in a mass production level in a cost efficient way. And I think that's something that we are talking to our customers quite a bit this time. It's a fascinating topic, and you know, I live in San Francisco and I just see so much good stuff happening, and it's a pity that sometimes we get worried about the FDA regulations and so many other things that go on in the healthcare, that these things become a little bit of an afterthought, right? But now the idea of pulling out the data from our instruments, which are a treasure trove of data, right? They have so much information. But in the past, we would not even pull out those signals. And even if you pull those out, we would not have the right means to develop the pipeline of that data and store it. And then more importantly, do something with it, right? So we have made good progress in terms of making our instruments data ready. So just like you had in the olden days, design for manufacturing and so on, now it's almost like design for data and design for AI, so that your instruments are capable of at least spitting out that data. And once you have that, then you can do meaningful use cases with those. For example, if you see failure rates very high in a certain instrument, you now know exactly how to pull that data out. And in fact, that's being collected real time, but then how to analyze it and how to pinpoint the issue. You can even have images where the camera is taking images and you suddenly see there's something wrong in a certain image, and now the AI can read what's going on based on the recurring usage. So I think I'm very excited about the phase we are in, because now it's time to take that data and use it for something productive. We have started an initiative called Ascential. It's actually a software platform that we have developed in-house. And there are several ways which we are employing it for helping our customers, right? So the first thing is we use that software to collect the right information from our various tools, instruments, devices, and so on. And then we use that to analyze, like some of it is just as simple as building dashboards. But the real interesting part starts is when our Ascential software, which is kind of the Intel inside, ends up analyzing all this information to actually improve the reliability, the productivity, the yield for the customer. And that's exactly where we are focused on in terms of bringing that solution as a core solution. When we produce the real product for the customer, the physical product, we also have started to embed the Ascentialytics in it so that the customers can have a much more reliable product and solve various use cases that the product is intended to do. I think some of it is around like if you think of how these products are developed from concept all the way to production. So some of it is how we design these products, like using this data and feeding it the user requirements and how it's actually used in the field, at what temperature, in what use case. That is the one idea that we start to bake in early in the design, right? But once the product is being developed, there is so much that we can do with digital twins, as well as the way we apply the data to increase the reliability of the process, as well as make sure that the yield improvements are there at the end of the process. And then finally, when the product is in the market, using this data for better usage of the product and to enhance its use cases, that's amazing. I mean, I myself have been trying CGM, not that I needed it, but I just wanted to try it. And I'm fascinated in terms of how data has modified my behavior towards food. So I think it's just the starting point for a lot of these kinds of use cases. So I think a couple challenges have become much more intense this time. So for example, the increase in productivity, I think making sure that the costs are lowered, that's become very important. One is you saw the inflation, right? I mean, that's hurting the margins of the companies. Second is the shortage in labor, right? I mean, the employment rate is good, but at the same time, that makes it difficult to find the right people, which in one way encourages automation, right? So that's the other challenge that we have, both to find good talent for us, for our own companies, but then also address customers' challenges around lack of, or dearth of labor. The third challenge, I would say, it's a little bit of more unpredictability around the global environment. So for example, you probably hear a lot of experts talking about what tariffs will do, but it's anybody's guess, because it's such a complicated world where while somebody who may be making things in US may feel that it may be good, and it may actually be good for them, but there are repercussions in terms of how our customers' demand will pan out. If our customers are more skewed to countries that have tariffs, their demand will slow down, which will impact us. So it's going to be pretty complicated to unwind all this, but from our side, what we can do is just be ready for that. I'll tell you a little bit of strategic discussions that we are having at our end, and I'm sure the entire industry is having those right now, these strategic plans, reviews and updates based on this. So the first thing is, I think if we keep the customer in front of us in terms of, as an example, one of our value prop for our customers is proximity. We are located in Minnesota, we are located in Oregon, we are located in San Diego, Costa Rica, Ireland, Malaysia, Singapore. The whole point is that wherever our customers need us, we are there. So if the customers shift their demand from one place to another, we are making sure that we have the right systems, processes, supply chain to serve them there. So I don't know how the tariffs will shift the demand, but what I know is whatever it does, at least we'll be ready, right? So that's one. And then the other thing that we are doing is we are making sure that we are reevaluating our supply chain. So if something like that happens, which is much more detrimental to our business, we have backup suppliers to take care of. So those are a couple examples that we are taking care of. So me coming from the industry from the other side, before I joined here, I was mostly focused on bringing new products to the market and so on. And in the beginning of my career, I was working with a lot of drug companies like Pfizer and AstraZeneca and Abbott. And turns out that a lot of knowledge was residing either in the drug side or on the device side. So that confluence, even for FDA, it took some time to work out the drug device combo part, right? But now things have evolved so much that implants are not those implants where you just put a plastic gadget in the, or plastic piece in the body, right? Or a screw or a metal part. It's about actually combining the drug and device, where the beauty is that once the device is inside your body, it can provide the right application or therapy for you. And that's something that we are very much focused on. So we have some really interesting oncology products that are coming up for providing chemotherapy inside the body in a very targeted way. And that business is really starting to pick up, and I'm so glad that the regulators are understanding those needs and are actually working with the companies to expedite their reviews and so on. So that's one of our fastest growth areas, and I'm really excited in terms of the value it's bringing to the customer, to the patient. You know, it's hard to figure out early in your life how the stars will align, but I just feel like this company brought full circle, you know, all my experiences and my education. So as an example, I started as a mechanical engineer, and I worked for a couple of years in a switchgear engineering company, then did my industrial engineering, came to US, and then I did my MBA and moved to the dark side, to the business side, spending a lot of time there. And then somehow I got involved early on in various pharmaceutical consulting projects. For example, one of my first projects in life in consulting was to launch Viagra for Pfizer. So very interesting DTC, you know, all sorts of modeling and all sorts of things I did. But it did give me much more knowledge about the healthcare side, which I didn't study much when I was in school. So then I joined bigger companies like Baxter Healthcare and Thermo Fisher, where I launched products and so on. But that whole feeling of, you know, technology and tinkering with stuff never went away. And then I got this opportunity where I came to Ascential, where it combined exactly my engineering, my business, this whole need to tinker with stuff and work on innovation, and then also share my experiences that I've gained across the board. So when this opportunity came up, I was super excited. I'm like, wow, there are so many things that we can play with, and then we can create meaningful solutions for our customers. So far I'm enjoying my role. I think there's a lot more to do, but it's a lot around collaborating with the customers and making sure we keep the customer and the patient in front of us.